They're here. They're here. Check that out. 2 of the Team Brooklyn Pony t-shirts arrived yesterday. And of course, I'm wearing one right now. Thank you, Andrew from Grease Rookie Garage. Look at that, though. That looks pretty cool. As you can see, I'm trying to get this right. The car is actually angled slightly. And my wife was like, doesn't that bother you that the car is crooked? I said, that's the way it's meant to be, because that's how it started out, right? So anyway, got two, and this one is, believe it or not, this shirt is green. Why it's showing up bluish on the camera, I don't know, but it's green. Because I wanted a green shirt, so I got a green Brooklyn Pony shirt. And the one I'm wearing is actually black. I think it looks pretty cool. All right. I see there were some people who showed up early. I don't know who those other names are. I don't recognize them. So I'll let them sit there for the moment, but they don't look like they're here for this live stream. So we have Jerry checking in. Good afternoon, Jerry. Rick Stevenson, Dave Conville, and Jack W. Aren't you guys working? Shouldn't you be working somewhere? Brian, hello all, like that ad. Times are tough. He is weak. What? Like that ad. I'll like that ad. Times are tough. He is weak. I'm not sure what you're saying, Brian, but we'll figure that out. Okay, let's see. Robert Bloxham checking in. Wow. MEMSO, hi all, California is burning down around us. That is pretty scary. I have friends out there. I've seen pictures and, the smoke and fire, and that is just scary. I mean, my sympathies and I mean, what else what do you do? Typically you can't fight those fires. I know they have professional firefighters that do their job, but when it's coming at you, you got to get out of there. So be safe. Jeff Reynolds checking in. Hi, Jeff. Crash Rider, watching, listening, and learning from Southern Indiana. Well, I'm glad you're here. And let me tell you something. I'm glad I'm here. I really am glad that I'm here and able to do this today, because I messed up. I don't know how many of you, follow. Okay, so Jeff is saying, or Brian is saying he was on just before you started. Okay. All right. Karsten checking in. Okay, so I had a big mess up yesterday. I was making a video for the other channel, for the workshop channel. On that channel, I do a variety of different things. I work on go-karts, lawnmowers, weed eater, whatever, pressure washer, fix a door, all kinds of different things. And I don't want to put that so much on, these channels or this channel here. And we have Wayne checking in from New Zealand. Hi, Wayne. I'm glad you're here. So anyway, I had made a video on the Trailmaster 150 that I put a carburetor on several months ago. I bought it pretty cheap because it wasn't running, and I bought a carburetor and fixed it. Okay, so I did a video on repairing that thing, and I've had several people ask about a follow-up video. They wanted to see it operational and running and stuff like that. So I thought, I'm going to make a video. Okay, let me get caught up over here. Jeff, he was on. Yeah, I was on before Barry started. Okay, and Marshall, hey folks, any recommendation on seam sealer for the space where the floorboards meet the rockers? Well, just from what I use, I mean, there's a variety of stuff available. I use brushable seam sealer myself from Evercoat. So I really like this stuff. Just what I personally use. Brushable seam sealer. I think it's on the Amazon page. I think. But anyway, I like this stuff. It's kind of like a creamy icing, and you can put a brush in it and brush into those seams. Or I've used gloves and put it on my fingers and just push it into the cracks. So, but obviously you want to prep all the metal prior, and then I will end up typically top coating this, if nothing else, a sprayable undercoating of some sort. But that's what I use. So hope that helps. Okay. Peter B checking in. Glad you're here. So anyway, I was making this video and I thought, you know what? I want to just take this, and I don't have a huge lot. Okay. I have less than 2 acres of land, and the bulk of it is yard and house. So I have a section in the back that's just some trees, pine trees and stuff like that. And I thought, I'm going to make a video of me starting this thing up after it's been sitting for at least a month since I started it. I'll start it up, and then I'll put the GoPro on the roll bar and take it for a ride and just ride it through the woods. I've got a couple trees that I can go over, a little bit of a course that I created back there. Just to, you can't go super fast in the trees. And another thing I do in the very back of the yard, I have an open area with like a cinder block fire pit, just where I burn stuff occasionally. Well, normally I'll go back that direction and crank the wheel hard left and stand on the gas and just do a big donut, just cut a big donut. Well, I know better. Okay. I know I can do the donuts. It would be counterclockwise, just like racing on dirt track, racing a car, in the States anyway. I know Jeff is listening. I'm sorry. Where did I see it at? New Zealand. I forget who it was. Wayne from New Zealand. I think they go the opposite direction. Anyway, they may do it in Europe too. But anyway, point being, here in the States, when we race, we typically race counterclockwise. Pull left, go through the turn, straighten out, pull left. Okay. Well, I was doing that and having a ball doing it. Went off in the woods, went over some trees, running around, and I kind of got out of sequence in what I was doing. I just kind of was just driving all over the place. Well, I came out of the woods and I decided to go clockwise around the cinder blocks. Bad idea. Number one, I didn't have any, there's seatbelts on the dune buggy, little cart. I did not have my seatbelts on, which I normally don't do anyway. I didn't have a helmet on, which I normally don't do anyway. And I know from past experience of other go-karts that I've ridden on, if you're driving around and you pull the wheels to the right and you try to drift the left rear, you run the risk of flipping. I know this. So what did I do? Come out of the woods, crank it hard right, stand on the gas. Whoa. And I flipped that cart. What an idiot. I flipped that cart. Now, what's interesting is I had the GoPro strapped right here, facing forward. After watching the video, I'm honestly lucky that I did not break something up to and including my neck. Seriously. When it came through the turn, the left rear, there's some roots back there. And I believe I hit a root was the first problem. And it kind of kicked it a little bit, made a bind. And then once it started going over, there's no recovery. There's no real recovery from this thing. So the video is up. It's on the other channel, Joe Daddy's Workshop. So if you go and watch that video, you're going to go, holy cow. How did you not break something? Basically, as it rolled, again, I'm not a kid, obviously, and I've had enough experience doing things that I understand there's physics involved. But I I held on to the steering wheel. That's always been, for that kind of incident, hang on to something. In this case, the steering wheel. I remember years ago, they used to have a TV show on. It was Battle of the Network Stars. And they used to take Honda. Remember the Honda Odysseys? They were the first real dune buggy ATV produced in mass. They didn't have any suspension, really. They were just basic. But I remember in one of those, Lou Ferrigno, the Incredible Hulk, was driving one of those and flipped it. And, he's massive. He's huge. He reached out with his arm, stood it back up, and kept going. Okay. So I always have that vision in my head of that incident whenever I'm on something like this. Well, I had enough sense to not try to catch myself. No, the War Wagon, the Honda Odyssey was actually a roll cage 4-wheel dune buggy type of thing. They're still available. People collect those things now because they're pretty rare. But anyway, I held on to the steering wheel, and as I went over, I'm still, momentum is carrying me forward, and as I hit, my head, I went through the roll bar, through the front roll bar. My head did. Okay. I impacted the roll bar, but the roll bar, that didn't hurt me. I think there's some little plastic connectors for the lights that are on the top, little plastic connectors. And I think that connector was between my head and the bar, and it gouged my head. I don't know if I can get the right angle there. You can see that. So I have this gouge right here. And it just so happens when I was doing this, my wife was watching our grandson, and they had just come outside. I didn't even see it. If you look at the video carefully, as I'm coming across the backyard, and you'll see the back porch, they are standing there just for a second. You see them in the camera, and I never even saw them. But I went and did that, flipped it over, and my wife, first thing she says, she sees me flip this thing. Are you okay? And I'm already on my feet, and I'm like, nope, because I got up and I grabbed my head with my left hand, and by the time I got up and got out of the cart and pulled my hand off, the whole palm was red, and I thought, oh no, I just gashed my head open. I thought I hit like a bolt or something, and I thought I was getting ready to make a trip to the hospital, which was really made me mad, because I didn't want to go. I don't want to go to the hospital, obviously, but man, that thing, I was just blood all over my hand. And I stood the cart up and, shut everything off, all the cameras and whatnot. And oh man, if you watch that video, you're going to go, holy cow, how did you not have more serious injuries? And the only thing is, again, hanging on to that steering wheel and letting my shoulder hit the ground, and kind of trying to hang on. But the steering wheel, it bent. I bent the left front fender, bent the bracket for the mirror, and then one of the bars in the back is pushed a little bit, and it knocked the battery out of it because it actually went all the way upside down. I mean, wrong direction. It rolled, and then it continued up on top of the roll bars, and then it came back over. And in the meantime of it falling over, I was already laying on the grass basically. And, I thought for sure I was going to have some sort of serious injury, but it ended up, the thing that hurts the worst right now is my right outer hip. I don't know if I hit a bolt or something on the way in and out of it. But that's the only thing that really, I feel a little jammed up, but nothing too bad. So let me get caught up on some of these comments. Warwag, Barry, hate to tell you, you're not young, supple, or indestructible like 30 years ago. Well, I agree with that. And you were saying 3-wheelers. No, the Odysseys were 4-wheelers, and they came before like the 4-tracks. Honda 4-tracks and all that stuff. So they were like a transition from the 3-wheeler. I think they were making 3-wheelers and then had the Odyssey. And I think later Odyssey models, they were just a single seat. They were very narrow and they had a roll bar on them and they had 4 wheels. And then later on they come out with the 4-wheel 4-tracks and stuff like that, which I've had 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers. I've had all that stuff. Yeah, you remember the 3-wheelers. Yeah. Marshall, my buddy still has his Odyssey from his childhood. Love the accelerator, steering wheel setup on those. Glad you're all right. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, those are really cool. The Odysseys were really cool. Now, I think, like I said, the early ones, I don't think they had any suspension. If I remember, they were like very, very rigid. And I think later on they became better. So you're saying it was Brian was saying they were 2-strokers? Well, they may have been. I don't remember. Greg Workshop is checking in from Australia. Glad you're here, Greg. Warwagon, what is the name of your other YouTube channel? It is Joe Daddy's Workshop. So I have Joe Daddy's Garage and Joe Daddy's Workshop. And the workshop is everything that's not car related, basically. You know, just all kinds of different things on there. Might have thrown my hip out. No, it's an impact. It's on the high point of like where the thigh. It's actually it's actually on the more on the thigh than the upper hip, but it's an impact. It's like I hit something solid like a shifter, or I'm thinking a bolt, but it's it's all good. I mean, it'll clear up. Brian, you'll go up someday, Barry. I hope not. You know, the best part about it is, you know, after I cleaned my wound, you know, I went back and finished the video, you know, telling them what happened and why you shouldn't do what I do, you know, because we all learn the hard way, but I should have learned the hard way when I was, you know, a lot younger, obviously, but you know, it's still, you still want to go out and do things like this, no matter what your age is. You still want to go out and, you know, tear around in a car, ride a dirt bike. There's so many things you still want to do. And I really don't want to try to give that up, you know, unless I have to, of course. Ricard is checking in, listening in for a short while tonight. Well, I'm glad you're here, Ricard. Okay. And Jerry's saying, I hope not to grow up. Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah. It's no fun. I want to keep doing the young things. Warwagon, did you have to pull the hair and skin off the electrical connector? No, because I had my hat on. I had this hat on to protect my skull. That's what I had. I had this hat to protect my head. And I think it's got some blood on it. There's some blood, I think, on the brim, on the bill here, or whatever. But yeah, I'm pretty confident it was that connector because there's nothing else there to hit. This is not if it would have been a compression impact on the roll bar, it would have been a split and probably gone down to the bone. This was more like that connector just caught me in the right spot, you know, and broke the skin. I really don't think it's not like it's not even really swelled, honestly. It doesn't even hurt that bad right now. You know, you don't want to tap on it or hit it with something, but anyway, Jerry, my stepdad would tell me that as an old man, I'll be smart because I'm making all the mistakes now. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's blood. It's got to be blood. It's got to be blood on the hat. It's collectible. But I don't see any other. I mean, it's got some dirt on it still, you know, on the back. But, you know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Jerry says the hat would be a great giveaway. Yeah. Oh yeah, I get those dings happen under my lift. Yeah. Well, you know what? When you talk about that, I actually have one of these. This is a skull cap, cheap and thin, and just enough to keep a bolt from cutting your head open. So you might want to look at those. It's just I don't even know who makes it. Hard cap by Aerolite. Hard cap by Aerolite. Aerolite. So when I'm getting under the car on a lift, there's nothing to slip this on and avoid getting a dent in your head from a bolt. Ricard, I have a dirt bike, a Yamaha YZ450F. Haven't touched it in 10 years. Too dangerous. You know what? I would probably agree with you on that. Now, I don't know if the YZ, is that a two-stroke? Is that a two-stroke? You have to tell me that. Because if it is, that's a pretty insane dirt bike. That's a pretty insane dirt bike. Rick, I might get older, but I refuse to grow up. Yep. Warwagon, now you can have a vid on painting your dune buggy helmet. Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah, Joking Barry, I'm the same way. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I look back, there's plenty of times that I probably should be either dead or seriously mangled or maimed or whatever. And when I was in the military, I jumped out of airplanes, I rappelled out of helicopters, I rappelled off of mountains, did all kinds of crazy fun stuff. Well, I miss that stuff because it's fun and it's like a challenge. So a few years ago, we had a military reunion out in Colorado, and this was really cool. The very cliffs in that there's a section of cliff on out there, at the camp. I think is it Camp Hale. Anyway, it's all the fort or camp is all dismantled and gone, but the footprint is still there. So there was a section up there that the 10th Mountain Soldiers from World War II trained in the snow, on the cliffs, in the mountains. But there's a section there where they had a natural cliff face that they practiced rappelling from back in 1943, 44, up until they went, when they went to war. And so we had a demonstration done there by modern day soldiers. And then they said, anybody who wants to try it, let us know. We'll get you up there. And I was like, hello, me. So I think 8 or 10 of us actually went up and rappelled down the cliff face. And it was fun. It wasn't as exciting as when I did it because the equipment is a lot better and a lot safer. So it was almost like walking down the cliff face with hardly any effort. But I still want to jump out of airplanes. I still want to go skydiving. I want to do that stuff. And, maybe I will. Just maybe I will. You can't stop me. Ricard, you're saying it's a 4-stroke. Yeah, it's still a crazy bike though. I don't remember the code YZ. I don't remember which one is which, but I can tell you that I rode let's see, wait. Okay, what were I going to say? Me too. Oh, and you got married. Yeah. Ricard, I can tell you that back when I was in the military, let's see, I was on leave, went to a friend's house, and one of his friends showed up with some sort of Yamaha 450. But if I remember, I'm pretty confident it was a 2-stroke. Because I know that thing would scream. And this bike was so big that you had to stand on something to get on it. You couldn't you couldn't put your feet on the ground. And here I am thinking, hey, I've ridden bikes before. I've ridden motorcycles. This is nothing. I learned a quick lesson. I had to, not only that, but you couldn't kickstart this bike. you had to push start this bike. You had to get 2 or 3 guys to grab the rear bar and run with it, and then you caught it in gear and take off. So that's what I did. And again, I'd never ridden anything like this. And I took off down the yard, got out to the main road, and I thought I'm just going to open it up, right? Well, I don't remember if I was in first or second gear, but whatever gear it was, it popped a wheelie like instantly. I let off, hit second, it popped a wheelie. I went off and hit third, and it popped a wheelie. And, I think I hit fourth, and it started to come up again. And by this time, I was a mile down the road and shaking because I never really even rode wheelies on bikes. This thing just scared the tar out of me. And at that time, all I had on was a pair of shorts. No helmet, no shirt, pair of shorts, and some sneakers and socks, whatever. But yeah, that thing scared me to death. And no, I won't ride one of those again. I've ridden dirt bikes for fun on the side. I'd rather have a 3-wheeler or a 4-wheeler, honestly. War wagon, they made us tie down our Swiss seats. I freaked out. I freaked on that. I could barely tie my own shoes back then. You know what, though? I still have my rope from making the Swiss seat, and I can still make it. I get a bell for that. Brian, I ran the YZT50s. Miss those days. Yeah. Milk crate. Yeah, milk crate or something to stand on and get on that bike. It was huge. And I've ridden 3-wheelers probably more than anything else in my life. And I can do all kinds of crazy stuff on a 3-wheeler and have fun with it. And just, I like the 3-wheelers. I've had 4-wheelers. We had 4-wheelers at my dad's junkyard. And, I really got around on those a lot. Yep. Yeah, war wagon. I still have it, and I can still make it, and I still trust it. Yep, because I did a lot of rappelling on that Swiss seat. So we have, Raid. That's a different name. I haven't seen that name before. I'm guessing Raid. Let me see if I can say that. A Bouchark. Hope that's right. Raid a Bouchark. Tell me if I'm wrong. That's my guess. Raid a Bouchark. Okay. Yeah, Ricard. Yeah, it's not fun. I mean, it's fun, I guess, if you grew up scaling up on dirt bikes. If you started off with a little Yamaha 80 or 50 or whatever, and you scaled up, and then you continued to grow into it and get out there and have fun, doing it. But you don't just jump on one of those. That's a bad idea. Just kind of like riding around on a go-kart dune buggy and flipping it. That's a really bad idea. Okay, so Raid says true. Oh, he's a Harley biker. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's just you just don't jump onto stuff like that. Bad idea. I think years ago, my brother had a bunch of Harley friends, and some had choppers, back in the 80s. And one of his buddies had this chopper that had I don't know how long the rake was, but it was way out there. And he was saying, go, take it for a ride. And I thought, okay. I think I was, 19, 20. I don't know if I'd been just out of the military or still in the military, but I got on that thing, got up the road. And I didn't go super fast or anything. I was at least cautious with it. And I realized really quick, this is dumb because I couldn't turn. It's great for going straight, down a highway and enjoying, leaning into it, stuff like that. But I couldn't turn. It took me like 2 minutes to turn it around on a little country road. So brought it back, and I said, "Yeah, you can ride this. I don't want to ride this thing." Well, anyway, that was a I won't say highlight. That was the excitement for yesterday, was rolling that go-kart. And, you got to learn somehow. But like you said, it's been said earlier, you should learn all this when you're younger. You live longer, right? So anyway, at this point, I'm actually debating on whether I want to keep it. Not that I'm scared to drive it, but now I'm thinking more along the lines of my grandson coming along and wanting to go for a ride, and am I going to be stupid? I know I won't. I won't be stupid. I would definitely be very calm and patient with him riding in it. But I don't know. It's just kind of, it's all fun and games until you roll the go-kart. Oh, man. Anyway, I know we had a question about the, wait, let me check something here. If anybody wants to get on the live stream right now, let me know. There is, go that way. There's the email. So you can send me an email. I will send you a link and you can be on the live stream and we'll see how that goes. Let's see. Warwagon, maybe you can combine the Mustang 3-point seatbelt install and the dune buggy belt install. Yeah. Actually, the dune buggy has 5-point harnesses. It has 5-point harnesses. I just don't put them on. I'm just like, I can do this. Yeah. Well, before I made it come on live today, I actually went out to the cart and I double checked the 5-point harnesses. I put them on, strapped in, and I was pushing myself around trying to see. And I was like, yeah, well, if I had just this on, I couldn't have hit my head on anything. But that's the way it is. Jerry, the cost of education is the cost of experience. Yes, I agree with that. Whoops. Let's see. Raid, Harley mostly cruiser ride, not for speed. Enjoy the ride. Yeah, I agree with that. But the chopper that I was on, man, it was like I said, the rake was so long on that front end. I can't guess how big the wheelbase was, but it was I just didn't like having to try to turn it around. Like I could imagine you could lay it out pretty quick. Like if you were trying to come to an intersection and it may have had some loose gravel or something and you wanted to make the turn, there's no weight on that front wheel. So I could see it easily slipping out from under you and laying it down. But I like motorcycles and all that stuff. Joachim Olafson. Hi, Barry. I had a KTM 495 dirt bike 30 years ago. I thought it was too dangerous, so I swapped it for a washing machine and a Ford Granada. Okay, that sounds like a good trade. Whoops, and more wagon. And then you said next time. Yeah, well, next time. Yep. Next time I'll put on the seatbelts and I may put some sort of helmet on. I don't know if I'll get real serious about it, but yeah. Raid, chopper, difficult, not easy. Yes, I agree with that. Like I said, this thing, it was probably, I don't even know. I don't know. It was just not my cup of tea. Not what I was interested in. I rode around on little Honda CB 350s, CB 450s, CB 750s, Yamahas, all kinds of stuff. Robert, American wiring, I think you mean American Auto Wire, I think, right? American Auto Wire harness or painless, which is really painless. I haven't messed with painless, but I can tell you the American Auto Wires that I've used have been very nice. I don't know what comes in the painless kit. I know that the kit that I put in, like my 55 Chevy, it came with everything I needed, a bigger fuse block, all the wire you needed. I think it came with ignition switch and flasher and all the stuff that it you would want to have. But I don't know on the painless, so I can only tell you that I like American Auto Wire. But if you're going to get either one, I think I know I have American Auto Wire listed on my Amazon page. So, but get what you want. I'm just saying, get whatever one you think is best. But my experience is with American Auto Wire. So, the only other company that I've used, which was actually worked really well, was Rebel Wire. And Rebel Wire, they made, I don't know what they offer as far as full kits or anything like that. The Rebel Wire kit that I used was for the dune buggy that I have, the 68 Volkswagen dune buggy. And that kit worked fine. Everything was labeled correctly. Everything hooked up fine. But it wasn't nearly as complicated as, the Mustangs and Camaros and all that stuff. So you may look up Rebel Wire too and just see what they offer. Maybe there's something in there that you could use. But that's about all I know on that side of things. Warwagon's been asking me a couple times now on this 3-point harness scenario for the Brooklyn Pony. And I've been doing some research. I've been doing my own investigation or whatever, trying to figure out what's the best way to hook this stuff up. And what I've learned is there's a company, I think they're the actual ones that provided the seatbelts. I think it's Revology, based out of Florida. They're a company that sells brand new Mustangs, 67, 68, 66. They're selling brand new cars to the tune of $150,000 to $250,000. Yeah. So you can buy a fully decked out Brooklyn Pony for $150,000. But they're putting, they're really sharp cars. I will say that. But I was looking at the seatbelt deal that they have, and they don't have specific information on the seatbelt setup. But what they do have is some pictures of various cars. And looking through the pictures of the 65 or 6 convertible that they build, I discovered, and I also have some pictures that I was provided by the owner, that there's a little hole up on the B pillar on the inside. And they have supplied in the kit some plates, with a threaded hole in it. And the idea is that the plate is going to go between the inner skin and the B pillar, and it's going to line up on that hole that is in the inner skin. Now, the way that I'm looking at it, well, let me just grab one of the plates. Hold on just a second. The way that I'm looking at this, they have this plate, okay, and you can hopefully see, it's got a flange, let's say, sticking up, and then it's kind of recessed on this side. Now I had what, for lack of a better term, there's a friend of mine from Finland, and what he'll say when he comes to visit, he says, "Let's argue about this." And he doesn't mean argue. He means have a conversation, try to resolve it. But it's just jokingly saying, we need to argue about this. So as I'm looking at this plate, he sees it as going, let's say you're looking at it from the, this being the inside of the car between the two flanges. He sees it going this way to where the recessed area is behind the hole. But in the pictures that I've found, it's this way, where this little flange is actually sticking into the hole. That's the way I'm going to install it. But the point being, you can see it either way. And to me, I would rather have this portion, this little chunk sticking out, into or recessed into the hole. So it's going to fit flush. And it's going to allow this, and maybe I'm just imagining things, but have a little more meat on this side. And then allow more bolt to come through on the backside. So, if you flip it over, you could, in essence, I think, bottom out the bolt, and then your contact point with the back of the mount would be hitting the body of the car. And I'm not 100% sure if this will keep it away or not, but that's the way I want to put it in. So that'll be facing to the inside of the car. Now, the other thing I want to do is, by doing it that way, I can weld. It's got these holes here, which I don't know why they have holes, unless they're thinking you're going to rivet this thing in or something. But what I want to do is make this fit in between the two panels, and I'm going to weld it to the inner panel, and I'm going to drill holes on the backside through the B-pillar and weld through the B-pillar. So it's going to have welds on both sides going into both panels. And there may be a bit of a gap. I don't know if I want to try to come up with a washer or something. I haven't decided yet. But I want to weld it to both panels. I don't want to just weld it to one. I want to try to make it as solid as I can. And this is actually probably the easiest of the combinations. The front will be simple enough. There's also pictures that I found or have that show the mount point for the retractable piece that's going to go to it'll be on your left hip if you're sitting in the rear of the car on the driver's side. And it has a place to mount a little elbow or a little 90-degree bracket that you weld to the frame. So that'll take care of that point. And then the inner section will be the factory threaded seatbelt hole. So that should be fine. But the real difficulty, and I'm still struggling with this, is getting the rear high mount point strong enough. I mentioned in previous segment or previous video that I'd considered like building a little mini roll bar, and attaching it. The more I've looked at that, there's not enough room. Even that, just having an 1.5 inch or whatever bar, it looks like the convertible top would come down and hit. So I have to allow for the function of the equipment. Now, I've been considering a couple of ideas. I think one of the hindrances that I have at this point is I don't have a back seat. I don't think I have any remnants of the back seat because it was all just rotted away and busted up. I'm going to try, I would think, and I may be wrong. I may be wrong, but I think a standard back seat should fit in there. Maybe somebody has some insight on that. So I have the Stray Pony, the 65 coupe. It has a seat in it. So I'm hoping that I can take that back seat out of that car and just set it into the Brooklyn Pony and give me some idea of where the stop point is for the seat and what I may need to come up with to make a mount point. I do have some ideas, but it's one of those things, like I say it all the time, test fit, test fit, test fit, because I don't want to weld something in and then come to find later on you can't put the top down, or you can't, do this, or you can't put in this piece of trim or something along those lines. So I'm trying to avoid those kind of conflicts. But I think I'm going to have to pull the seat out of the Stray Pony and just see if I can get it in there. So we'll see what happens. War Wagon, I just want to do the front. I want to use the back seat only when car not moving. To take a nap or something, right? Take a nap. You watched CJ Pony demo, did not care for their video. Yeah. Well, I think I've seen that video. And after seeing these plates and how they're in this other car, I like this idea better. It's more concealed. It's cleaner. And I think it'll do just fine. And when it's all said and done, there won't be any cuts, exposed stuff. It'll all be, blended in. So that's what I see. So that's I'm trying to still. I want to have everything lined up to where I'm comfortable with it, and get it together, and go from there. So anyway, what else was there? Yeah, but that's gonna be that'll come up. That's coming up. It's coming up. I was thinking there was something else I wanted to mention. All right, so nobody's coming on the live stream. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to mention. The sample hats have been made, the new version, which it's still going to be, this logo, this design, but the new sample hats have been made, and they're going to be sent to me. They'll probably be here, I don't know, maybe Monday, Tuesday, I don't know. So that's a good thing. Once I get those and I'm happy with the hats, I will place an order and get those in place. Now I've looked at, these hats are stitched, where I've thought about doing them on Teespring, but it's kind of hard, I think, to do I don't think it's as good with a printed pattern on them like the shirts. So at this point, I'm going to stick with the stitched design. And like I said, I've got, a variety of colors I'm going to choose and run with. So hopefully I can get all this cleared up in the next, I don't know if I can do it by the end of the month or not, but I'm going to try. Let's see. War wagon. Yeah. LOL. Sure. Oh, okay. I don't know if you're talking about making a video or not, but, anyway, so what else is going on? Anybody have any insight? Oh, here's something. I was on Facebook Marketplace again, and I'm looking at cars, and I found, some pretty good deals, I think, on, I found a 67 coupe, 3-speed manual car that needs totally redone. It's in pieces, but it seemed like a pretty good deal. And then I found a 65 6-cylinder car that's no engine, no transmission, rolling chassis, rolling body. And then I saw somebody had posted I don't even know what it was, 65 or 6 coupe. And the price didn't seem too unreasonable, because I know there's some people out there that are just crazy for what they think their car is worth. But this particular car, I think it was, if I remember, it was it might have been a 6-cylinder car as well, but it had the roof, the light pad, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what that's called, or where it's got the lights in the roof, and that beam runs back. I'm pretty sure that was the car. But anyway, I was looking at the pictures, and beside it was a 69 Mach 1. And this isn't this barn or shed or whatever is just filthy. There's dirt, stuff piled up all over the place. It is just like, forgotten land. So I'm looking at the first car, and then I see the Mach 1, and I say, "What's the story on that? Is it for sale?" I asked the guy, and he said, "Yeah, it's for sale." And I said, "Tell me more." Well, it was he came back and quick said it was an automatic with an H code, I think is what he said. Now, I don't keep up with the codes very well. I know there's certain ones that are more important than others. And I think he said H, and that if I understood correctly, he said it's a 351 Windsor, maybe 2-barrel car. I don't know. But it was white with red stripes on it, had red interior. He sent me some pictures of it. And again, it was not restored. It was filthy. And I think it had air conditioning. That was the other odd thing on it. But it had, it needed work. It needed completely gone through, but it was a complete car. Looked like it hadn't started in years. So I said, what's the price on that one? And he said, well, I had it appraised at $50,000, but he'd sell it for $40,000. And I was like, I'll bet you would. I'll bet you would. Because that was, I was like, $40,000, and it needs like all redone. I don't know where he got that appraisal, but that was pretty crazy. All right, let's see here. Rusty's Mustang Garage. Been watching your vids for a while. Love them. What camera and software are you using for the live stream? The camera is a Logitech HD 1080p. As much as I can tell you, I don't know what the number is on it, but it's from Logitech. I could probably, I don't know if I could see what. Let me see what this says. Oh, Logitech HD webcam, 6515. That's the camera that I'm using for the live stream right now. As far as audio, normally I was using the microphone that's on the camera, but I have switched over to, let me see what it says here. I don't know what it's called. USB. It just says audio device. I don't know if I can. Yeah, it doesn't say what the name is, but it's a device that I got off of Amazon. This is the microphone I'm using right now. Just a little tripod mounted. The name on it says Fifine, Fine. So, and that's what I'm using right now. And I will say this: I've also, because I went to using the Logitech camera and a separate microphone, I only had one USB port available on my laptop, which is what I'm on. So I had to buy this Anchor 4-port ultra slim USB 3.0 data hub. And basically what it does is it allows you to plug in like multiple devices. Multiple devices. So there you go. So it's like a splitter for USB. There you go. Now you know. And the software or the program that I'm using is StreamYard. StreamYard is one where you can add in. Let me get my camera back level. I don't know which way I'm going there. StreamYard. That's close enough. No, it's not. Why is it crooked? Hang on. Because I have it taped to my bench. Now it's all moving. That's what you get. It's what you paid for, right? Okay. StreamYard is what I'm using. There's another one out that you can use, which is Streamlabs OBS. So StreamYard and Streamlabs are both free. Man, why is it going crooked? Now I'm getting irritated. Hang on. I don't know why it's pulling off. I've got it. I have it like on a piece of double stick tape, and it's like trying to pull off of that tape. Okay, I'm going to quit touching it. But StreamYard is what I'm using right now, and that's the one where you can add in other people to your stream. There's a button down on the bottom that says invite, and allows you to create a hot link that you can email somebody and then pull them on to the stream with you. So good question. Hope that helps. Ricard, H code is the same as mine. 351 Windsor 2-barrel. Thank you, Ricard. That's what I thought. Drop clutch garage. Wash hands. Okay. Wash hands of that. Mach 1. Is that what you're saying? War Wagon. 73 are nasty looking? Well, depends. It depends. They all have their place. I'd prefer to have a 73 over a 74. Just my opinion. So Ricard says I need a Mach 1. Yes. I agree with y'all. I agree with you on that. War Wagon, you might as well build an AMC Pacer. Peter B, I had a 74 once. That was ugly. Yeah, I'd go with that. Joakim, H code 351 2-barrel. Thank you. Rusty's Mustang, thanks. Looking forward to get my project rolling again. 65 coupe. Cool. Good. War Wagon, let it go, Barry. It's not a crooked body line. Yeah, well, it is to me. It is to me. I have to figure that out. I've got it where I think it's okay right at the moment. It's a little angled down, but then you can see the shirt. You can see the Joe Daddy's Team Brooklyn Pony shirt better. Jerry Tyler, I need a Mach 1 too. Yeah. I mean, there's one I've seen on Craigslist or on Marketplace. It's a rolling body that looks like they've done. It looks like, I don't know who did the work, but it looks like it has, it's in primer. They say they put in new floor pans and new this and new that. I don't think it comes with an engine or transmission. And they have it listed. They had it listed for $14,000, and then they dropped it down to $12,500. So I don't know exactly the parameters of it. I don't know what it is, or if there's anything else wrong with it or whatever. But $12,500 for that one. I want to find one that's $1,500. Then I can just rebuild the whole car or make a whole video series of it, right? That's the way to do it. And then there's I've seen some recently that they had posted that it was a conversion where they had cut the roof off of a rusty Fastback and welded it onto a coupe. And I'm not necessarily against that, but they kind of made it sound like, I don't know, it sounded kind of sketchy, like they transferred the VIN numbers or something, which I didn't like that, because, I don't know, it just didn't make sense to me what they were trying to sell. And if I do a conversion, I want to do one where it's all new panels, and I take, cut off the back of the car, put on the whole kit that is available. The only gray area with that, in my mind, is somebody going to pay what it? I know it's not going to be worth the same as a regular Fastback, but if it has a coupe VIN and it has, Fastback body, are people paying for that stuff? I mean, are they willing to, spend some money on that? I don't know. That's the only gray area that I have, because, like I said, I found a 67 coupe. It's a V8 car, so it's got 5-lug wheels on it, and the price is reasonable. And I thought, that would be a good candidate for the swap. Do the full kit from Dynacorn. But again, I don't know that people are willing to, spend the money, because the kit is it's over $5,000 just for the kit. By the time you add in labor and time and all that sort of stuff, you could have, quite a bit of money tied up in it. And then you wonder, is somebody going to be willing to pay that, because it's got a coupe VIN, So that's the only gray area that I have with that. Otherwise, I'd like to do one. I really would. But we'll see. Maybe one day. Anyway. Okay, so Ricard's checking out. Glad you're here, Ricard. Glad you're here. Like I said, if you haven't seen the crash video, it's on Joe Daddy's workshop. And again, you're going to go, what? That's crazy. Yeah. So otherwise, I know that the weather's changing. Fall is coming. Happy about that. It's also making it more likely to, want to have the garage door open and get some fresh air in here more often. What else was I thinking about? Oh, not that it matters, but on this, I said before, on the other channel where I make videos of a variety of things, weed eaters and chainsaws and whatever. I'm thinking about making a video about I have a 24 volt Cobalt chainsaw. It's got a 12-inch bar on it. And I thought about making a video to see how long or how many cuts I can make with that chainsaw. And in the past, I think on this channel, I also have a video about a Bradford pear tree that died, and I cut the thing down with a regular chainsaw. But I thought it'd be interesting because, they advertise on those electric ones, you can make so many cuts. So I'm thinking about just making a time-lapse video going after that tree and seeing how many cuts I can get out of that. That might be interesting. Make for an interesting video anyway. Warwagon saying Frankenstein. Yeah, when you got cars all mixed up. Labradoodle, yeah. Let's see. Max Hathaway, I've always been a person who doesn't care about VINs as long as I like what is in it when I buy it. That's all that matters. Well, that is good. I mean, that's good. That's a good, I like that opinion. But there are also, people that are going to go, oh, no, this isn't supposed to be a fastback or, whatever, And so that's where I get kind of a little more hesitant to want to build something like that. So, but I'm sure there's people out there to buy them, and they may, honestly, there may be people that, there's a guy on YouTube that's basically building new bodies. From there, I don't know what happens. Like, I don't know if he sells them to somebody who's got a clapped out fastback and then the VIN numbers swap. I don't know. But that may be an option. That may be something people, would want to do. They buy one, you get the coupe and you convert it, they take a coupe, convert it to a fastback, and then somebody buys it as is, puts their VIN number on it, and now you've got, a coupe fastback that's got a fastback VIN. Just saying, because once they're stripped off, you don't know, you can't really, I don't think there's anything that gives it away between a coupe and a fastback as far as the floor pan, frame rails, or anything like that. I don't think there's any big difference. So at least nothing obvious. Old Crony's Garage checking in. Glad you're here. Dave Britton. Hi, Barry. I have interest in a fastback conversion, but worry about getting glass, trim, and so on for the fastback. That's that's a concern. That is a concern. I don't know what the aftermarket availability is for that. Of course, you want to have NOS if you can get it, but I really don't know. That's a good comment, Dave. I hadn't really thought about that very much, but there was one guy on Marketplace on Facebook selling he was trying to sell the roof from a 69 Mach 1. I saw the car. It was a complete car. And he says he'll sell the roof and the glass and whatever that you could make a conversion, from the 69 Mach 1. And I was like, man, what's the deal here? So I messaged him and I said, would you sell the whole car? Because if you're really willing to cut the roof off of it, you have no, you don't want, what are you going to do with the rest of the car? And he had commented in the ad that it was very rough, very, very rough. So I messaged him and I said, would you sell the whole car? And he said, sure. And he said he wanted $4,500 for the whole car, except it had no engine, no transmission, no interior, no VIN number on it, no data plate on the door, and it needed a full one-piece floor pan. It needed front frame rails. It needed all. He was going through the list, and I'm thinking, you want $4,500 for a Mach 1 with no VIN number, no data plate, nothing, no build plate, nothing. But you want to cut the roof off. And at that point I understood, $650 you can cut the roof off and build your own. But I couldn't understand the number, $4,500 for a pile of rust with no VIN number, no engine, no transmission. I think he even said, no interior. And I'm not even sure if he said it would have the glass in it or something. I don't remember, side glass or whatever. But I was like, man, are you crazy? But maybe somebody will buy it. I don't know. Max, you have the reputation and documentation to prove a quality product. I'm sure people would buy anything you made. Well, thank you, Max. That's good to know, because down the road, there will be other projects. So I will say that. I've still got to build that 68 Camaro and get it sold. I'm looking at, again, I may start buying up other Mustangs to build, or, to reskin or whatever and get in shape. So that may be something I look into down the road. It's funny. I don't know if I mentioned it on this stream or another conversation I had, maybe on a Monday stream, that I was talking about somebody's asking about the Jade Mustang. And of course, it's got to get it in paint and finish putting it all together and all that stuff. And somebody said, well, but would you sell that car? I was like, yeah. I mean, everything's for sale. Everything's for sale. Somebody come by with the right number, I'd sell that car too. But anyway, yeah. Hopefully I can build more stuff down the road. Old Crony, is it legal to roll an odometer back on a restored car or truck? I was thinking of buying my dad's. No, it's not legal. Not legal. No matter what you do, it's not legal. They'll flag it as soon as if you were to try to, let's say, try to sell that vehicle, and you had a title that said 150,000 miles, and you restored it, and now you set it back to 0 or whatever, that's going to throw red flags real fast. So don't do it. Assuming, you say Dodge Ram 3500, I'm assuming the odometer goes over 100,000 miles. So there, as far as a counter. Max, I saw a convertible that had a custom hardtop to make it look like a Fastback. That was an awesome concept. Yes, I saw that car too. Or I've seen more like it, or several like it. Yeah. That's in fact, I found one of those. I think I found one of those in Florida that was a body that was for sale, and I really was getting close to considering buying it. It looked like it was really well done. By the time I went back and checked on it, it was gone. So, hey, Donald, checking in from Jeanette, Pennsylvania. Glad you're here. RJ, I like the coupe better than the Fastback. Maybe I should do a conversion from a Fastback to a coupe. LOL. Yeah. That'll turn some heads and get you some views on YouTube. I hate this Fastback. I'm going to turn it into a coupe. You'd be getting death threats. Peter B, same here. I always like the coupe more. Though, here's the thing. And again, I've said it before. I grew up, my dad had a junkyard. I've been around thousands and thousands of cars in my lifetime. been around them. And when I look at the coupes and fastbacks up until 69, to me, when you hit 69, I don't like the coupe anymore. I just don't. I don't. It doesn't do anything for me. 69 and 70, the coupe just really, doesn't do much. Prior to that, 67, 68, 65, 66, I like the coupe. I really do. At certain times, I like the fastbacks. I like them both, but at certain times, one will interest me more than the other. But then the next day, I'm like, I'm back to the coupe, But in 69 and 70, I'm all about the fastbacks. I just don't. The way they finish out the roof line and the quarters on the coupes, I just don't like it. And when you look at the front end of a 69, and you just look at the taper of the body, the hood, the forelights, it just has a look to it that if you see it in a garage, and then you come to the side, you're disappointed if it's a coupe. I'm just saying. That's just me. I'm not a fan so much of that coupe. Marshall, well, I had to step out to help with homework. Wow, all the fastback haters, dang, I like them all. Teach their own. Yeah. I mean, there's a place for all of them, and I don't know. I don't say they're fastback haters. I'm just saying that there's a couple of guys that like the coupes more, and I understand that. I really do. Dave, the tack-on trim on the side of a 69 coupe just looks so afterthought. Yeah, it's almost like, why did they bother making a coupe? You had a 69 Mach 1, and the coupe, it just doesn't quite do it. I don't think it, just doesn't quite do it. Because you look at the 68 has nice crisp lines. Even the upper body line is nice and crisp and drops off nice. And the 69 and the 68, and then the 69 is just kind of, bleh. It just, everything just feels like it's rounded off and doesn't do it for me. Greg, checking out. Well, glad you're here, Greg. Warwagon, I have a VIN tag, door tag, and GT pop-up with gas cap from a fastback. Yeah. Really now? Well, I can build a car from that. I can build a car from that. He lost a pink 35 years ago. Well, you don't need a pink in Georgia. Just need a bill of sale. Simple bill of sale will do. Max, for a lot of these old cars, does having a salvage title really matter? It is preferable to a clean title, but 90% of the cars have been hit at some point anyways. I don't even know if you can get a salvage title on one of these cars. I'm sure you can, but the value, of course, is in a clean title, because then you can sell it to any state. Georgia, a bill of sale, you can write it on a piece of toilet paper. They don't care, just so you have something that says, I bought this car from Billy Bob. Well, the salvage title, and this is why I look at it. I look at it a couple different ways, because I had the body shop business, and there's a point in time where they total the vehicle because the repairs exceed the value of the car. Okay. Or exceed the 60% of the value of the car. What that means is, if you had a $10,000 car and the repairs were $6,000, they'd say, total it, get it out of here. Well, then it would go to a salvage yard or to a salvage auction. Somebody could buy that car and they could piece it back together with junkyard parts or whatever, get it inspected, and then it goes out into the market, let's say, or they get it checked, inspected, and they end up with a salvage title. Now, the way I look at it, in that respect, the salvage title has less value, because from my experience with the collision industry, I've seen cars that were rebuilt or salvage titles that I wouldn't want to drive. okay, because of the way they were just hacked together, and they would hide stuff, even though they were inspected. The inspectors, all they wanted to see was that all the panels were on the car and they lined up. They didn't look underneath real hard. They didn't, So whenever I go to buy a used car, if it has a salvage title, that already tells me that it had some severe damage, and that flags me to look at it harder and try to see what was done to it. Now, here's the thing: if the car was an older car, right? I mean, let's say it was still in its newer life, it was only a couple years old, and at that time the value is $20,000, a $6,000 repair, it would be the same repair, really, but you're going to end up having to put in all new parts, follow the guidelines and procedures. So that's where, if you get my drift on that. So there's definitely a difference. But again, you could run into a situation where the salvage title may have been, it was a flood car. Well, the reality is, if you flood out one of these cars, there's really not much you're going to technically damage. If it's all rinsed out, cleaned out, you get rid of, put on all new wiring and all that sort of thing, other than having some dirt in the rocker panels or something like that may influence rust, you can do a lot with it. So there are lots of variables on that question, and I hope that gives you some insight. Maybe my opinion is wrong, but that's the way I look at it. War Wagon, that's probably why they don't make the coupe today. Yeah, the new bodies. Yeah. Well, old crony, yeah, if you get 999,999 miles on a Dodge 3500, you go ahead and count that as a new vehicle. If you can get it up that high, that would be 1,000,000 miles on a Dodge 3500. Marshall, owning a first-generation Fastback, I can tell you why so many more coupes were sold. The back seat is about as worthless for anyone over 4 feet tall, and the greenhouse effect. That's a great observation, Marshall. Thank you for that. Boondocker checking in. Afternoon, Barry. Missed you Monday. Windstorm, power out for about 14 hours. Well, that doesn't sound like fun. Glad you're here. Hope things are improving wherever you're, at. Let me see here. Those are junk emails. Let's see. Old crony. Could you build a $2,000 Ram 3500 with brand new or rebuilt parts, starting with a cab? So it's basically a brand new truck. You could, I guess, but you still have to have a VIN number, and a VIN number has documentation to it. So, I mean, if you could find the parts, I'm sure you probably could, but that's not all I can say on that. Brian, get me thinking about those Fastback conversion kits. There is no top on this one I'm working on right now. Yep. And that conversion kit, what I like about them is it comes with the complete side of the car on both sides. It comes with the roof. I'm sure it comes with the cross bracing for the roof. All the pieces. So might be something worth looking into. Dave, here in Ontario, a car with a flood title can never be on the road again. Well, does it depend on the year, Dave, or is it any car history in the history of its life, like back in the 60s? And I understand that, especially with a car that has electronics, all that stuff. And it's just not worth it. So thank you for that. Dodges usually can make it to 1,000,000 miles. There's a 2001 Dodge Dually with 1.7 million miles. Well, that's good. I mean, I'll take your word for it. I'm sure there's been a lot of parts replaced. Just a thought. Okay, Boondocker in Western New York State. Yeah. Well, the weather's been just crazy, all over the place. I think in Colorado, it dropped like 75 degrees in one day, I think is what they projected. I don't know if it actually did, but, just been crazy lately. Dave, once flood, never again. Yeah, well, remind me not to get a car or take a car to Ontario, if it floods. Yeah, you're right, Rick. When it comes to salvage titles, think about the 66 that you cut up to build the broken pony. Yes, exactly. I mean, there's pieces and parts. It's all metal, and again, it depends on what's been done to it or how it's been done and stuff like that. But I think I may be kind of rare. I think in essence to find an old car like that has a salvage title. I know I've seen cars at the auction places, Mustangs and stuff like that. I can only assume those cars have a title. I don't know. What is it? What's the company? I can't think of the name right now, but occasionally you'll see it pop up. One of the old, one of the auction sites will have, a 68 Fastback that's been smacked hard in the front, and the insurance company just totals it because they don't care. And, the people get their check and send it on its way. Well, I guess at that point, that car ends up, if somebody does rebuild it, ends up with a salvage title. That's about all I know. Brian, my project is a 69 convertible Beetle. Well, there you go. Why not turn that into a Fastback? Volkswagen did make a Fastback, right? They made what was a model on that thing. It was like a station wagon. I think they called it a Fastback. I remember we had a couple of those at the junkyard. It was some sort of station wagon looking thing, but I think they called it a Fastback. I think. RJ had ice on your windshield today. Well, you can have all that. You can keep all of it. I don't want any of it. Ever. Warwagon, take Crony's Dodge to the flood. At least, it will start again. Yeah, that's true. Boondocker, did you miss a junkyard story today? Well, I did talk about a time where I was riding a Harley chopper up at the junkyard, but it wasn't really junkyard related. It was just a Harley that had a real long rake on the front of it. And I was talking about trying to ride it and turn it around. And because that conversation started back with an earlier segment where I talk about crashing the go-kart. I have a dune buggy type of go-kart thing. And I was making a video for the other channel, Joe Daddy's Workshop. And I managed to roll the dune buggy yesterday. So for those of you that are just checking in, it was pretty brutal. And I have a video. I had a camera set up on the roll bar for the go-kart dune buggy thing, and I rolled it. And my head smacked the roll bar. I went partially through the roll bar. Actually, it rolled all the way upside down and then rolled back over on its side. So my head impacted something. And I ended up with a battle scar right there, and a bruise on my hip, and thankfully nothing else. So if you really want to see it, you have to go to the other channel and watch the video. It was not pretty, and it was GoPro footage, so it was really clear. Slow. I even did slow mo so you could see me hit the ground and smack my head and get up, and yeah, really dumb. Reminded me of stuff that I used to do at the junkyard though. Marshall, if I get my car done here in Georgia and have it inspected to get it registered, will I get a rebuilt title, or how does that work? Never thought about it before. Well, Marshall, I don't know. Do you have to get it inspected? You shouldn't have to get it inspected. If you're in Georgia, there's no reason to get it inspected. There is no inspection. Unless it had a salvage title or something to begin with. All you need is a bill of sale in Georgia. And if you have a title that is good to go, it just needs to make sure it's signed. So, I mean, there's no reason there should be any kind of inspection. I mean, I've got like the Jade Mustang, I don't have a title for it. I have a bill of sale. I have insurance on that car right now, and I could go to the tag office, show them a piece of paper that says I own this car, and they're going to hand me a title or a tag. I'll never get a title. They'll hand me a tag, and I could easily have a tag on that car right now, which in fact, I've been thinking about it. We have, I'm looking at my plates. We have historic plates in Georgia. And when I bought the car off of the gentleman, it had a historic plate on it. And I'm thinking about re-registering it with that historic plate, just keeping that historic plate on. I think that would be kind of cool. But yeah, you should not need any kind of inspection on that, unless it had some sort of conflict or something. I don't know the history of the car. And if it's, yeah, you might be able to, we could probably email about that if you want to and talk about it more. War Wagon. Here, if it's a classic and you want to let it sit for 7 years, it becomes record not on file with the DMV. Then you get VIN verification, and it's all clean. You just file for lost pink. That's interesting. RJ, I think the VW Fastback and station wagon was a Type 3. That may be, but I do remember, they had a station wagon, Fastback, whatever. We had a couple of those up at the junkyard. War Wagon, yeah, you missed it. Boone Barry had his senior moment. Yeah. Boondocker, like Will Rogers once said, I never met a junkyard store I didn't like, or at least I think he said something like that. By the way, I'm glad you're okay. Well, thank you for that. And like I said, if you watch the video, you're going to go, holy cow. You're going to be stunned, because I know I was stunned. I thought whenever I rolled that thing, I thought for sure my head hit the ground instead of the roll bar. And I didn't realize that I was like going through what would be the windshield opening from the impact. So, but it's all on film, it's great YouTube footage, right? Yay. That's what all the kids are doing these days. Okay, let's see here. Hold on a second. Hold on just 1 second. We are going to send Jerry an invite. He's going to talk to us about the 67 he's going to restore or wants to restore. All right. Brian, I was joking again, Barry, though. I kind of wanted to build a top, but Mrs. Winslow wants a new rag top. So rag top it is. Yeah. Marshall, thanks. My old man had to have a cop come over to his house to look at his 32.3 window before he could register it. That was a bill of sale too. I do have a bill of sale, thankfully. Yeah, I think the only time that becomes a gray area on those type of situations, I've had that too. My 55 Chevy, I had to have a police officer come out and double check the VIN because I didn't have anything document-wise that said it existed. Like I didn't have any paperwork. So he came over and checked the VIN for me. He did a theft search on it, all clear, good to go. I see it, Jerry. Let me get done here just a second. I'll pull you up. War Wagon, after so many years of not being registered, it gets kicked out from DMV records. That's interesting. And Michael Williams just want to say thank you for all your Mustang work videos. They are both extremely educational and inspirational. Well, there's a bell for you, Michael. Thank you for that. Okay. We're going to bring Jerry on. Boom. There you are, Jerry.
Good afternoon, guys. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Well, I've had good days and I've had bad days. I've taken 3 steps forward and 2 steps backwards, and right now I'm even.
Okay.
So I'm doing good. Yesterday, Tuesday, I looked at a 1967 coupe that is a 6-cylinder that a guy wanted to sell, and it's in okay shape. It's drivable in the condition that it's in right now. It's got rust in the floor panels. I think it's got rust in the firewall, but I couldn't verify that because of the paint and stuff that was on it, and I didn't want to chip anything off. The rear panel above I think it's called the valance, had rust around the tail lights.
Okay, the tail panel.
Tail panel. And anyway, so he was asking $10,000 for it. And I told him, I said, look, I'd like to come look at your car, but I need to know if you're negotiable on the price. And he said, I'm highly negotiable. So I drove over and looked at it. And after inspection, it looks like I couldn't see the torque boxes because of the lumber that was laid in beside the car. But the frame rails at the rear spring shackles looked okay. It had a little rust, and I tapped on them with I had a mirror, so I just extended the mirror and just tapped on them, and they seemed solid. And so after thinking about it, because it was about an hour drive each way, so coming back home, I was thinking about it, and I kind of decided that I was just going to just pass on the car, because my offer was going to be about $3,000 for the car, and he had included a 351 Windsor and transmission, as well as the 6-cylinder engine and transmission, and he had some other parts that he had bought, such as electronic ignition, for both the 6-cylinder and for the Windsor 351. And so I thought, well, you could part this thing out and probably make a little money on it. But I decided, I don't really have the time to do that. So the purpose that I asked for this was, he just texted me and was texting a lot at the beginning of this live stream, and he wants me to consider restoring the car for him. So I was kind of looking for some suggestions, if I were to do this, on things to ask him up front before we get into some kind of financial arrangement to do the restoration. So what I've written down just over the last hour and a half is, what is his objective for the car? And then what does he want in terms of restoration? Is it just the body panels? Does he want to include wiring? Does he want anything done with the front end suspension, the rear end suspension, the interior? He's already asked about rebuilding the motor and the transmission, and I've responded back to him and told, no, I would refer him to a motor builder or a transmission company to do that,
Right,
versus me, because I'm not going to take on that liability. And so I just was wondering if there was anything else that you might, or the listeners that are out there listening, that might suggest that I should ask this guy when I talk to him later tonight or tomorrow.
Well, I think whenever you're considering something like this, you need to add again. What's your budget? That's probably one of your biggest questions. What do you really want to spend on this car? And then from there, start digging in and saying, okay, these are. You could say, without seeing the car, I can't say if it needs quarter panels or doors or fenders, or I don't know what the situation is, but you have to say these panels would have all the rust in them. Once I start removing stuff, normally this grows. If you pull out the tail panel, you may have issues with the quarters or the trunk pan or different things. So he needs to understand that it's not just pulling out a piece of metal and putting in another piece and saying, okay, that's good.
Well, and actually we had that discussion on Tuesday, and I was telling him, I said, look, I said, I'm doing a 66 right now. And I said, if I could start over on it, I would do it a little bit differently than I've done it now. But I said, I can tell you that the worst damage that I found in that car was after I started disassembling to fix the obvious problem.
Right.
And so I think I really think he wants this car.
Okay.
Because he told me that, because I asked him for the reason for selling the car at 10,000, because technically it's drivable right now.
Yeah.
All he has to do is he ordered a new starter for it, and he's got a new carburetor coming, I think he's already got it in. And once he puts that on, the car is drivable. He has to just put the hood on it, and the interior is decent. There's a little bit of problems with the passenger side seat, and that's just the obvious stuff that I picked up on. And so, if he would have put it back on the road, and I know he's changed, and I'm sorry, I'm skipping around a little bit. I know he's changed the upper control arm and the lower control arm and the spring on the driver's side. I don't know if his plans were to do the passenger side also.
Okay.
But I asked him about that, and I said, well, why are you doing that work on the car when the bracket that goes around the spring on the shock tower,
Yep,
it was in good shape? So I said, why are you replacing the control arms? And I seen the control arms that he had thrown away in a box, and there wasn't any reason that I could see other than maybe ball joints,
right,
to replace those.
right.
And so he says, well, my long-term goal on that is to put a 5-lug front end suspension on it, and I'm going to put this 350 Windsor engine in it. And I said, well, now you know that with the suspension you've got, it's not going to support that engine. You're going to have to upgrade the whole suspension, and what you've spent on it right now, you're just going to throw away. And so he said, well, I didn't know that. But anyway, he contacted me today and asked me if I'd be interested in working on it. And I am kind of interested in working on it because I think it'd be a cool car. And what I checked based on our conversations before was I'd run my hand over the body lines on how the fenders fit the door fit the quarters, and how the door fit the rockers.
Right.
And then I looked at the body line. The hood was off, so I couldn't see the body line on how it lined up with the light rings and stuff like that. But all those were, in my opinion, okay. I mean, they were acceptable. And so I just was kind of looking for other stuff. What's his budget? I hadn't thought about that. And then I did also ask about what's his time frame.
Right.
How quick does he want it done? And I don't want to talk about pricing on the live stream.
Right.
But I will talk about that, in an email with you or something like that, just to
That's
give
fine.
some guidelines.
Right.
But the thing that I wanted to make sure is that I'm asking all the questions that later, if I write a contract with this guy on doing this job, that I've got everything covered, so that and obviously you can't cover every sequence that comes, but I did tell him that what I do is on the ones I've done before for customers is I generally ask, the two questions I ask is, are you going to buy the parts, inspect the parts, and then if you are, then I require a deposit for labor, which I'll bill against as an escrow account that I get paid for as a bill against. And then if you want me to buy parts, then do you want to have input on the parts, or do you want me to make all the decisions? And I then put a caveat and said, I would prefer that if I have to buy the parts, that we do a 50-50 escrow account for parts and labor, and you get the final decision on all the parts.
That seems reasonable.
So,
yeah, I like. But I guess probably the first question is how much is your budget? What are you willing to spend on this car? Because if he says, "Oh, I think I can restore it for $10,000," no, ain't gonna happen. I mean, just look at what it costs to paint a car. that sort of thing. When it comes down to it, you can't hardly paint one of these cars for $3,000 when you really get to it. So if he comes back at you with some crazy small number, then it's not going to be something you're going to want to get involved in. Just the way I look at it.
Well, and that's a good suggestion, and I agree with you. Is that based on what I've learned on painting, which I'm a novice at that, and body work and stuff like that. It's never, and I guess this is something I never understood about the insurance industry with body shops until I got into this, is they give you an estimate, and then the estimate is never what's actually charged.
Nope.
Because you get into it and there's hidden damage.
Sure.
There's things that you just can't
file supplements.
Yep. And so you just file supplements, and the insurance companies either have approved that or they negotiate with you and you go forward.
Right.
But on an individual that wants to do this, and I don't know what this guy's position in society is and where he works, and,
right,
or anything like that. And so I don't want to get into something that I get halfway into it and he says, well, I don't have the money, and I think you misled me and stuff like that.
Right. Well, and that's the thing too. That's like I said, one of the first things you need to know is, what are you willing to spend on this? Because your experience says just to do the basic whatever is going to be well over that number, whatever that number may be. If he has to be realistic. The cost of parts, your time, all the things that add up. And then what you could do, just as a thought, if you said, okay, you're going to buy these parts and whatever, and if you decide to back out of it, then I keep the car. Whatever. I mean, you could try to maybe leverage that in there somehow, so that way he can't just say, I'm not going to pay you. You can say, well, I've got all this time and labor in this car. I will keep the car. You're still going to pay me X, whatever. Just kind of think of it that way. Is there some sort of a, because if you put time in it and money and materials, it's kind of like I looked at it, and I half jokingly, if somebody were to, let's say if I was working on a car, let's say I was working on a car and I'm building this car and I put in all kinds of new parts, and whether they paid for the parts or whatever, and then they decide I'm not going to, pay this or I'm not going to pay that, then I would suggest that I'm going to take all my welds back with my plasma cutter.
Yeah.
You can have all the parts you paid for. I'm taking back all of my welds.
Yeah.
You can have it all back.
Well, and I would hope that this project would never evolve into that.
Right.
But I grew up in the automation business. In fact, a lot of the airplanes that you worked on, my company supplied the automation that built those airplanes.
Okay.
And so I understand the legalities that come into, you take on a project and all of a sudden something goes sideways on you, which I've never had a project that run 100% the way it was designed to run. No. In 40 years in this business, or in that business. And so you've got to have contingencies, and sometimes the contingencies can't be defined, and you have to go back on what was the intent of the contract, and just negotiate on the morals of the individuals you're dealing with. And sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not in your favor.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't want to get into something because I know what I've spent on this 66 that I've got, and without running a cost analysis, which I've got all that stuff in my checkbook, but I can tell you with with about a 75% accuracy. When I started this restoration on the 66, after I bought the car, and that doesn't include the purchase price of the car, I've probably got about $16,000 or $17,000 into this car.
Yep.
And that's not labor. That's just parts. So if I consider my labor worth $25 an hour, which I think it's worth more than that, you know, I've probably got 1,000 hours in this car.
Oh, believe me.
And I know you've been working on.
Believe me.
I mean, you've been working on the Brooklyn Pony for what, 3 years now?
Yeah, off and on for 3 years. Yeah.
So it's probably pretty easy that you've got 500 hours in that car.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well over that.
So, and I'm not fishing for information. I'm just making observations that I've learned from this 66 I'm working on.
Right.
That it's just, you know, the average individual does not understand what it cost to restore one of these cars, nor do they understand, if they're looking for a show car, as I was in the beginning, what it costs to bring a car up to show quality that actually can get you a trophy,
Right.
or maybe $100.
Yeah. It doesn't trade off very well.
It's it's kind of like, my big hobby was, when I was a young guy, I was a technical scuba diver. And I did all kind of extreme scuba. You talked about jumping out of airplanes. I did 6,000 feet penetrations into caves and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I did it, if not weekly, monthly. And the cost of doing that is approaching the cost of owning a restoration car.
I believe it.
I mean, it's just, and I finally got to the point that I just physically wasn't able to handle, 4 or 5 hours underwater,
right,
depths of, 60 to 200 feet. And
yeah.
so I finally retired from that business.
I don't blame you.
Versus the alternative, which was running out of air.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, hey, I appreciate your time, and you've given me some good information.
Let me give you some comments that are on here. Warwagon says shop around Jerry's 6-banger cars are a dime a dozen. Sometimes it's cheaper by the whole kits. You're talking about the control arms. Sometimes it's cheaper by the whole kits that have control arms than it is to buy the minimal pieces and pay to have bushings pressed in with machine fees. And that's why, like, when I did the Jade Mustang, I put on just brand new control arms. They already had the ball joints already done. They're already clean, painted. I didn't have to touch them, just bolt them in. So that's why, I like to do it that way. Marshall's asking about the difference between the suspension on the two, and we're following up with the spindles are different. Let's see. Okay, Robert Blockman is checking out. He's got things to do. Outer wheel well to remove. Dave Britton says, get it in writing. Get it in detailed writing, what you're trying to put together for this guy. Mike Williams says it's like defaulting on a mortgage. The bank gets your house. Brian says 10G resto runaway. Yeah. Boondocker, Jerry, don't take this the wrong way. You called yourself a novice body man and painter. Do you want to get involved? Do you want to get involved in projects for someone you don't know? So I don't know if he's.
I don't know him.
Yeah.
Other than I met him on Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
And he seems like, and I'm the type of person that looks for the best in everybody. And until you prove me wrong, I assume that you're going to do what you said you're going to do.
Right.
And when you prove me wrong, then I become a little more offensive. And, I live in Tennessee, which is much like Georgia or Alabama. Sometimes you have to go talk man to man.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. Believe me.
And
uh,
so, but I do, and I appreciate the comment because I hadn't written it down to get it in writing.
yeah,
And I mentioned earlier that if I do this project, we're going to do a contract
yeah,
on it, and everything will be in writing
that's good then.
as to what he expects. And then there'll be an option that says, okay, if we need to deviate, then we can deviate, but the deviation has to be confirmed in a revised order.
Right, right. That makes sense. Um, Boondocker says, I've been a self-employed general contractor for 30 years. You never know exactly what people's hidden expectations are. That's very true.
It is, and actually, I was one of my I did work for a major company, but I for years had a Tennessee electrical contractor's license, and I did a lot of projects on my own, but I did more projects as the contracting officer. So what I would do is a company would say, "Well, I need a permit to do this job. We can't permit it. Well, you permit it. Well, I would permit it for a certain amount of money, and then I got to inspect all their work before they call the inspector out."
Okay.
Which is in Tennessee is kind of different, and maybe the same in Georgia. I don't know. I grew up in Texas. In Texas, that wasn't an option.
Okay.
The electrical contractor had to do all the work. But anyways, so I do understand that, and and the expectations are always hidden.
Yeah.
As to what they really want in the end.
Crash Rider says, personally, Jerry, I believe you would be setting yourself up for a disaster by taking on the restoration. And again, there's all kinds of variable opinions on this.
Who was the commenter on that?
Crash Rider.
Oh, well, thank you, Crash Rider. That you could be right because there is one constraint that I have right now, and I've given a lot, and this is probably the main decision that I made not to negotiate with this guy to buy the car, which was I don't really have a good place to put it. and I've got a trailer that I trailer the Cobra in and you've seen my Cobra, the red one.
Yeah.
And so I got a trailer that I can put that in. But there is a rider in my insurance that says I have to store it in a locked building. And I store it in the trailer most of the time.
Yeah.
Just to keep it out of the way and keep
Sure.
from getting damage on it. But if the trailer was to get stolen, then the car insurance doesn't cover. I mean, the trailer insurance covers the trailer, but the car doesn't get covered.
Right.
So I'm kind of in a dilemma on that. I've got one option that I can consider, and that is that I would not do the job before starting in January, which gives me time to finish the 66 up, which I've got the headliner pieced in place now. And I told you about the headliner in this, and I don't mean to switch gears on you here, but this is kind of an interesting thing about not paying attention to some of the things that you hear, is that the first headliner I started putting in, I did a research and I watched a couple videos on that, and I thought, I got this down. And what did I do? I cut things too short and I tore it. I had to get a new headliner. Well, that was 8 weeks ago. So the new headliner's in. So I decided to go ahead. I'm not going to, and by the way, I'm not going to repaint the car. I've decided that it's going to be a daily driver, and I'm going to live with my experience.
Right.
So anyway, I started putting the headliner in, and things weren't lining up just like it did before. So I got online yesterday, and I spent almost 3 hours watching or searching for videos on how to install headliners. And you know what I found out in the end? The single biggest mistake I made was I didn't center the headliner on the bows.
Yep.
And I didn't center it to the car.
Yep.
So when I seen that, I went back, pulled the headliner and bows back out, laid everything out on the table, measured everything out, got it centered, put it back in, and all the problems I were having before have almost gone away.
Yep.
Now, tomorrow, based on conditions, and I don't know. We may make a car show on Saturday and cruise in on Friday night. If that happens, I won't do a lot of work on it.
Right.
But I think right now we're going to do the cruise in on Friday night, and I think Friday morning, if that's the case, then I'm going to go ahead and start trying to put a little bit of contact cement on and get this thing stretched out and pulled in. But it's looking really good right now.
Well, good.
So I'm pretty proud on that.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I'm remembering some sort of a color code, I think, on one of the vehicles I've worked on. And I don't know if it was on the bows, if it had color on each end of the bow as an indication for the headliner, or
Yes,
okay.
it does.
So, and then also I was thinking maybe my mind is reaching around here a minute, saying there may have been different colors at each location.
Yeah, and actually on the Mustang, on the one closest to the windshield, there's no color code or no marking on it. The number 2 is red, the number 3 is white, and the number 4 is brown. Well, as it turns out, I didn't know that before yesterday. So I went back and looked, and I found that number 1 had nothing on it. Number 2 had red. I could find red residue. Number 3 was white. And number 4, I wasn't sure, but number 4 is a large bow.
Right.
That goes over the back
there
at the sail panels. And so I knew that was where it went. The other thing was, and on all the stuff I've read and seen up until yesterday, was you just put the thing in and stretch it out and glue it on and you're done. Well, there's actually 2 clips that come in from the back side on the 4th bow, and they clip in and hold the bow vertical.
Yep. 2 little like spring clips. Yep.
And so I got on CJ Pony's website today and I found those. They're $5 or $4.95, but they want $27 shipping to get them here overnight.
No.
And I said, nope, that's not going to work.
No.
So I started researching what the distance of that bow was. And I thought, well, the bow's got to be vertical.
Yeah.
So I just took
some safety wire in there.
Some tie wire.
Yeah, safety wire.
And I made my clips.
Yeah.
And it worked out great.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
20 cents.
I'm gonna breeze through some of the comments here on the side. Jeff Reynolds is saying he's been listening until now. Boondocker, I'm optimistic about people too, but it's funny how people swear you said something you would never say. Jeff Reynolds, Bear decided to keep quiet until I see your rollover video and assess for myself how affected you may be. It's hard to say, man. It's really hard to say. Marshall, whenever I do work for friends, etc., I always offer the driveway warranty. Once you leave my driveway, there's no warranty, but never get paid for my work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, very okay. I have no experience of privately restoring cars for other folks. War Wagon saying 3 feet or 300 miles, whichever comes first. Jeff, very much as enjoyed you first receiving New York convertible. I couldn't for the life of me understand how you and the client could enter such an unknown. Yeah. Boondocker, most problems can be avoided with open communication and working for people you know either or were referred to by people you trust. You have to be prepared to take a hit once in a while. Yep. Okay. I'm hitting the 2-hour mark, so I'm gonna have to call it a day. Jerry, I'm glad we had this conversation. Glad you were on. If you want to email, we can maybe email some stuff back and forth, or maybe even talk on the phone. We'll figure it out and go from there. But I'm going to let you go, and hopefully you can work something out with this guy. We'll see.
Well, I'll only have one more comment, and thank you very much for all your help.
Yep.
Is that I didn't get to watch all your go-kart video today. I'm going to go back and finish the video because I've got to see this rollover.
Oh, it's painful. It's painful to see. I can tell you that.
Anyway, well, I'm glad you're okay.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you later. I'm going to let you go. See you. All right. So Jerry is checked out. Guido, hi Barry, coming on now. Your guest, he looks like a detective, is Is he in law enforcement? No, not in law enforcement. He's been on a few times. Jerry's been on a few times. So, but it's been 2 hours. And if you haven't already, throw a thumbs up on there, just like Dave says. Rick says. Yeah, Jeff's going to go watch the rollover video. Yep. Thank you, Rick. I will be here Monday at 7:00. Assuming I don't wreck something else and create more damage to myself. But again, thank everybody for being here and participating. Those of you that buy stuff on Amazon, I give you a thumbs up. Those that have, joined the patron fan club, thank you for that. And even Teespring, if you're buying, looking to buy the new Brooklyn Pony, Team Brooklyn Pony t-shirts, they're available on Teespring. Usually at the bottom of the video, you can, they're underneath the description. There's usually a banner that has the link to Teespring. So you can, if you're interested, get a t-shirt. And yep, Boondocker, I agree. Great guy. Hope he can work stuff out as well. Okay. I've got other things to do, and I know everybody else has as well. So I'm going to call it a day. And again, thank you all for being here. And, until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.